The second part of generativism is to do with the understanding of universal grammar. And the very key question, why universal grammar? Universal grammar is usually defined as the system of categories, mechanisms, and constraints shared by all human languages and considered to be innate. So very basic idea is that human language is a concept of innateness, and therefore the universal grammar is a concept which actually defines the system that those languages have, the categories of the systems, the complete mechanism of its processes, and the constraints and problems which a learner encounters in the process of acquiring a language. These are generally thought to include formal universals, for example, universals which are to do with principles and parameters, as well as substantive universals which are to do with the lexical categories and features. So you have these formal universals in terms of principles and parameters, and substantive universals in the form of lexical categories and their particular features. Universal grammar defined by Noam Chomsky as the system of principles, conditions, and rules that are elements or properties of all human languages. So when he talks about all human languages, basically he is referring to the universality of those principles and conditions and all those elements which actually constitute a particular language. According to him, the universal grammar is the essence of a human language. And secondly, he says that it's an intricate and highly constrained structure consisting of various subsystems of principles. So basically, when it has so many things in terms of categories, in terms of principles and parameters, that makes it a very intricate system, highly complex with minute, small details and mechanisms. And also, yes, various subsystems based on lexical features and other such phenomena. Why universal grammar? Now let's discuss some of the arguments in support of the theory. The first argument is language universals. That means all human languages share certain properties. The second point is about convergence. Convergence means although children are exposed to different input, yet they converge on the same grammar. Poverty of the stimulus. That is, children acquire knowledge or understanding of language for which there is no evidence in the input. No negative evidence. That is, children know which structures are ungrammatical and do not acquire overgeneral grammars in spite of the fact that they are not exposed to negative evidence. Species specificity. This is to do with human language, that we are the only species that has language. Ease and speed of child acquisition. That is, children learn language quickly and effortlessly on minimal exposure. That is to say, without any explicit teaching of the grammatical rules. Uniformity. All children acquiring language go through the same stages in the same order, in spite of the fact that they are exposed to different input. Mostly they say their referential words at 9 to 15 months, and then followed by other development in the similar manner and in the similar process. Maturational effects. Language acquisition is very sensitive to maturational factors and relatively insensitive to environmental factors. That means that language faculty develops or matures according to biologically determined timetable, and which actually takes us back to the uniformity argument as well, when the children follow the same process of acquiring the knowledge, and how with the passage of time they start increasing the word database. Ninth argument is disassociation between language and cognition. This is to do with some clinical populations or studies have shown that there have been cases where you can see normal language and impaired cognition, and some show normal cognition and impaired language. These two areas need to be dissociated. Neurological separation. Different brain circuits are responsible for representing, processing linguistic and non-linguistic data. Linguistic theory, explanatory adequacy and descriptive adequacy. Explanatory adequacy means that it explains why they are that way, and descriptive adequacy means to characterize what human languages are like. Universal grammar, according to Chomsky, is therefore a proper theory that explains and describes the underlying linguistic knowledge in second language learner's mind. According to Noam Chomsky, universal grammar focuses to answer three basic questions about human language. 1. What constitutes knowledge of language? According to Chomsky, the universal grammar provides a detailed descriptive framework which enables researchers to formulate well-defined hypotheses with regard to the knowledge of language, that what particular factors and elements constitute knowledge of language. How is knowledge of language acquired? According to Chomsky, universal grammar explains that children could not learn their first language so quickly and effortlessly without the help of an innate language faculty to guide them. So, the process of acquiring a language is also explained by universal grammar. And the third and the last question is, how is knowledge of language put to use? For this, the universal grammar explains the concepts of competence, not performance. So the emphasis is on the understanding of the competence in terms of all the language rules and systems which basically enables a learner to put language to use. What does universal grammar consist of? Universal grammar is an approach that consists of universal set of principles and parameters. Principles are universal, that means unvarying and applicable to all natural languages, and parameters are basically the ones which possess a limited number of open values, for example, the null subject parameter. To conclude, Chomsky introduced universal grammar, also known as mental grammar, as a linguistic theory and proposed that a certain set of structural rules are innate to humans, independent of sensory experiences, and the theory consists of principles and parameters as its basic components.